Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Mom Talk Sex podcast, a judgment-free zone where we take the shame out of the sexual game. I'm your host, Marielle, helping you transform trauma into your personal power. And I'm so excited to have with me today the beautiful. So, when you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ca Kanooble. I'm an author, comedian, a MILF, of course, and a legendary throat goat in my area. I have a Ho on the Go podcast and also a book called The Ho Handbook, where I teach people how to please and be pleasing through sexual freedom and self-empowerment. It's all about bad bitch, big dick energy.
Yes, I love it so much. And I love having you here because I feel like sometimes as moms, we're tired and we don't have any energy and we are, taking care of everybody and not taking care of ourselves. And this energy that you bring in, I think is so important to light that fire back up in marriage, in a relationship, when you're tired and you're on your couch watching some Netflix. So how do you stay in that energy? I'm really curious, how do you stay in that elevation?
Well, I realized after being in a relationship that I was relying on my partner to make me feel beautiful. And then when I didn't have that partner anymore, it was like, what do I do? So what I did was I look in the mirror every single day and I go, you are a hard 10 out of 10. To be honest, I say 7 out of 10 because I'm kind of conceited. So I have to humble myself. But, I always say 10 out of 10 on the days that I'm not feeling great. And it's not fake it till you make it. It's say it until you believe it's true because it is. It's already true. You just need to hear it from somebody else. That's not accurate either. We just need to tell ourselves positive self-talk. I wear things that make me feel great. I'll get up even if I'm not going anywhere and I'll put some makeup on and put a nice shirt on and I'll take a couple selfies, just because when I see myself looking like that, I'm like, I am hot, ain't I? I am hot. I totally am. So that's kind of how I do things, just to keep my energy up and keep my confidence going because, if I'm not confident, nobody's going to be confident in me.
I love it. So what kind of tips can you give us to, fire up, to bring back that fire, right? Keep it sexy in your marriage, in your relationship after you've been there, some of us 5 years, some are 20 years, right? How do we keep it hot and fresh and interesting and not the same boring?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with exploration. So, for example, I always suggest that people go to bdsmtest.org. It's a free test you take, and it'll tell you kind of, what some kinks and fetishes might be to spice things up. I always suggest taking it separately and alone before you come together as partners and look at it together. And then kind of delve into the fantasy of it and have fun because then you're really exploring things and it builds that trust level even more. But it's all about seduction and teasing. A lot of the times when we're in long-term relationships, we forget because we have them already that we have to keep winning over our partner. That's what keeps your sex life and the drive alive and the love, honestly, because it only gets deeper from there. If you're willing to put that effort in for your partner, put on a sexy outfit, surprise him when he comes home, slide a nude into his lunchbox, leave a little sexy note somewhere where he won't find it right away, but he might a little later, like underneath the sock drawer, like the pair of socks, he doesn't wear that often, what I like with them. And I'm like, what is this? And I'll see and go, oh, but that'll bring that spark back. You got to play with the imagination, play with the fantasy of it, because you're in the reality. We're parents, we're in relationships, we're bored, we're tired all the time. We don't feel very hot at all. You have to put the effort into it. You got to play with that fantasy world then, where it's not a tired mom or a dad bod dad, which dad bods are sexy, by the way. All right. Don't let anybody fool you. They're still sexy, but only if you take care of your kids. All right. Kidding. But yeah, that's really it. I like to tell men, especially, like, leave little sticky notes around, just like I tell for the women. Leave little sticky notes saying things that are complimenting your woman that have nothing to do with physical appearance. Your smile lights up the room. I'm learning so much from you every day. You inspire me to be better. Little notes like that, women love that. Okay. You'll get the sloppiest of toppy, I promise. Okay. And it's worked. It's worked. Actually, recently somebody asked me what tips and I gave them that one. He was like, this is really working. And I'm like, amazing. I love hearing that, but leave it in places, like leave a couple in obvious places, but leave them, like I said, in places like in the back of the pantry where she's not going to see it until you run out of mac and cheese or something, like somewhere not immediately found. I think it really helps.
I love it. And how about in the bedroom? Is there any cool tips you can give to make stuff in the bedroom you're already, okay, I'm in the mood, I'm in the bed. What can I do to make rock his world a little bit more than normal?
Men love whispering. Start whispering in his ear, little things, little, you know what he likes. Start whispering things in his ear, and men have a sensitive spot, not only on the tip of their nose, but also on the back of their neck to the left side. Play with that. You could run your tongue along it. And when I say you, I don't mean like a dog. I mean, just the tip of your tongue very gently. That sensation will drive him crazy. To spice it up, if you guys are comfortable with that kind of thing, blindfold him first, you know? Start whispering in a different accent and something, like play on to the fantasy so that it is thrilling and it is fun.
I love that. And I feel like it's not too much for women that maybe, aren't sure about like toys or role playing or, different outfits. I think these tips are great to like kind of start with.
Yeah, absolutely. I always recommend starting small. You don't want to just jump into something because then you're going to feel embarrassed if you mess it up in your eyes, which, by the way, ladies, there is no way to mess it up. You put on a skirt and that guy's going to go wild. Doesn't matter what you did wrong. Okay. That's just us and how we process things. But, men are just excited by something that surprises them. Do something you haven't done before that you're comfortable with. Most importantly, consent is everything, no matter what, even in a marriage. So, especially when people get into like kink play and fetishes. And for people who don't know, a kink is something that you like to do to get turned on. A fetish is something that you have to have to get turned on or aroused. So there's a difference just for people who don't know. Quick tidbit. But you want to make sure you do your research. Honestly, if you're going to go into and it's an umbrella term, but BDSM, all kink play goes under BDSM. Make sure you do your research first, please. Just because some of that stuff can get very complicated, very dangerous, and very embarrassing if it's done wrong. Okay. So yeah, I mean, ropes and ties are fun. Depends on what you're really into.
Yeah.
But don't use the double-sided tape. That stuff sucks. Pro tip.
I was gonna say, is there like a cool site you can recommend for people that are beginners? They don't really know where they're going or what they're doing.
So to do research on like fetishes and kinks, I would highly recommend FetLife. You do not have to make an account, but it has a list of different kinks and fetishes, and then you can research from there. There's something also called the Bad Girls Bible. It's a newsletter that comes in. It gives you tips and tricks on, how to spice things up all the time. And I think they give some really great advice. I do know some people who own a sex toy shop. I can give you that information later. She has some great stuff and great deals. And I found this stuff. Now, I'm going to give a warning, okay, really quick here, because I don't put things out or suggest them unless I've tried them or seen them myself. So with my podcast, somebody from Pure Romance sponsored me. They'd give me samples of different things, and I'd give them out in little prize packs. Fun. But they had this, it was called Orgasm Enhancement Cream. I was like, what is that? And she was like, you only need a little bit. And I'm like, okay, like I'm a sex educator. So for me, I've been doing this a long time. Like there's nothing that takes me by surprise. So 2 days later and 3 sets of bed sheets, when I finally submerged from my room again, it's intense and it's fun and it's for men and for women and it's flavored. So it could be a lot of fun stuff like that to spice things up. Yeah, different positions, fun stuff. But as far as like stores, I don't like to recommend single ones. The only thing I will say as a word of advice is with toy play, when it comes to like the Rose and vibrators like that, use them very, very sparingly in your own time. When we women tend to get bored with our husbands and our sex lives, tend to turn to our toys when they're not around. But the problem is with that, it's going to make it harder for your partner to please you when you do have sex with your partner, especially the Rose. So just word of advice, especially because we're mentioning like, toys and stuff, just be very careful. Use anything other than you sparingly, if you catch my drift with that. But they're also fun in the bedroom. So if you haven't done that, play around. There's this little wheel that somebody had introduced me to, and I do not like pain. I'm, for one, do not like giving pain. I don't like receiving pain, other than maybe like a whip here and there. Like I have antique whips that I keep on mine, and I love them. I love it. But at first when I saw it, it looks like a little spiked wheel, and I'm like, I don't know about that. But then they ran it very lightly up my leg, and girl, chills down my spine. So just don't be afraid to try things, but do it again within your comfort realm and comfort range.
I love that.
There's a lot of stuff out there, I promise.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your book that's going to come out in June? I think that's so
Sure.
cool.
So when I went to college, before I went, I was just like not confident. I did not love myself. I was the youngest of three sisters and I wasn't the hot one. So you can imagine like how I felt. So when I went to college, I went 2 hours away from home. I was still 17. I was like, I'm going to be that bitch from now on. And I was. I literally went through my slut phase, like anyone, anywhere, anytime, we in there. And while I was doing that, I kept a little notepad with me and I would write notes in like this worked really well. This had this effect. This did not, because I study people, their facial expressions, their body language, things like that. So when I left college, I came home. I started teaching classes at a sex club on how to better please, which basically stems down to communication and temptation. That's all it is. So when I was in these classes, I would study people in relationships, out of relationships, in different sexual scenarios, all sexual scenarios, to see how they react and how they behaved. And that's what helped me form my book. So my book has 3 different parts. It has a section for women, it has a section for men, and then it has a section called the Petty Chronicles. When I wrote that section, I kept my younger sister in mind because she had trouble standing up for herself. So what they are just little comebacks that you can say that make people laugh instead of, bothering you, because when you make somebody smile and catch them off guard with something you say, they're like, what? They're not going to bother you anymore. It's worked every time for me. So that's what that section's for. But, for women, I teach sexual freedom and self-empowerment. Go be a hoe and make me proud. You can win some and you can lose some. Just make sure you're getting some. These are important facts. Spread love, light, and your legs, and it starts with little rhymes. Like, for example, the first, I would call them a rule, but really it's a guideline. The first tab in my book is to always have a hair tie around the wrist. That's how you tell the difference between a hoe and a slut. Because a hoe is prepared for anything. We're prepared to either suck dick or fight, but either way, we're prepared. The next one, and that's really the message behind it, is just to be prepared for any sexual scenario or any scenario in your life. Just be prepared for it. The next one is no ring, keep the roster. And this one gets a lot of flack, but you know what? It's not leaving. It's important. For women who are not married, if you are in a relationship, no ring, keep the roster does not mean you cheat on your partner. It just means that you still have a starting lineup for if something happens. If your man breaks up with you, I'm not going to stay in bed for 3 days, not by myself anyway. I'm calling somebody else because I'm not going to be left feeling less than. It helps with your confidence to keep your relationship going. And it keeps him on his toes. Like, yeah, you bagged me, but guess what? There's a starting lineup already and there's 2 on a bench. So guess what? You better act right. And the next one is know the difference between a walk and a work. The difference between a work and a walk. One will get you A to B, the other makes them talk. Stick out your chest when you're walking. Walk into a room like everyone in that room is there for you. Doesn't matter what they're there for before. They're now there for you. No head down, no looking at the floor. Head up, look straight ahead, and heels on the floor sound like power, baby. That is how you really step into your confidence. You have to be that confidence for yourself. And, the next one is if you have to work for a man, make it a good looking one, baby, because I'm not working anywhere. I'm not having a good time. And if there's nobody good looking, then put a mirror at my desk and I will stare at myself. So just to give the kind of little examples of some of the stuff you might find in there, that's a few of them. Yeah, and for men, like, it's about re-spicing up your relationship, how to keep a woman, what not to do in a relationship. Like, for example, never ask your woman for a threesome if you're not married. Let her come up with the idea herself. Because if you ask a woman when you are not married to have a threesome with you, no matter who you're asking it for, it's going to plant a seed in her mind that she's not enough for you before you're even married. It's going to end in flames and in disaster. May even be 10 years from then. It doesn't matter, but it will inevitably end in disaster. Because anywhere a seed is planted, something blooms, and just things like that, leaving the letters around, how to spice up. Maybe like not leaving your clothes next to the hamper on the floor, but like actually putting them in the hamper, and like wiping off the counter when you're done making a sandwich, things like that, just little tips that kind of help men along because they need it, not all of them, but most of them need it. And, it caters to every age group. So, I have stuff for the younger kids, teens, I mean, like 16 to 18. Well, honestly, kids in my realm is like 16 to 21. You're all kids. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in my 30s, and there's probably people in their 40s, 50s are like, you're still a kid. Like, yeah, you're probably right. But you know what? Those are kids to me. So, yeah, there's tips for every age, like, when is the right time to have sex? How do you know it's the right time? Like, what do I need to do to figure out what I like and what I don't? Just all about sexual exploration and taking notes and providing demonstration, baby. So
That's amazing. So where can my guests find you if they want to find more about you, what you do, or your book? How can they reach you?
sure. So to find me, number one, you could Google me. I worked hard for that. But you can actually go to cakanoble.com. It's CAKANOOBLE.com. That has all of my stuff on it. For most social media, I go across the board to CA Kanooble as well, except for Facebook, it's I'm CA Kanooble because I had to make a new one. So that's where you find me. I'm on all websites. So YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all the things.
Well, thank you so much for being with me. I really appreciate it. I know you spiced up the afternoon, and I'm so glad that you were here. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next